The prison of humanity is based in thought. It's reliant on thought. And we try to see the prison with thought and a thought-based identity. And so it's very hard to see through it. This trap, which is used by the satanic matrix, is something that has been revealed deeply to me the last days. I usually speak from a space where I elevate my consciousness and I sit down and I speak from there, be it praying, meditation, etc. At present, the channel may be a little more quiet than usual because I am in the middle of launching the social media platform that we've been building. And for those who don't know, it's the world's first platform that is dedicated towards connecting the voice of content creators and social media influencers with causes, projects, charities, man, woman, child, animal, environmental issue in crisis, who need a voice, who need some exposure, who need people to know they are struggling. And so ultimately it's a way to connect charities with content creators or projects with content creators to help build a better world here, to bring more light into the world. Doing that is an honor. It's a blessing from God, how it manifests. If you haven't seen that video, I'll talk about it when I launch it fully properly. The level of consciousness required to do that is more grounded. And what I notice as I become more grounded is the simplicity of the trap that we fall into. The trap may or may not be natural, that we fall into this state of separation. We fall into this space in consciousness where we separate from all that is. Even now, most of you listening will feel that you are separate from the world. You will feel that you are this mental image of who you are, and that you are therefore separate from the world, and you are separated from it. This occurs because from that space of consciousness, we have placed that self-image in the driving seat, instead of, in faith, placing God in that driving seat. And so we believe thought is the only way to navigate life. And analysis is integral with thought. But if you look very simply, if you have a human organism where the forest human to human, and they are sitting there in unity, they've never spoken, they've never analysed, they just recognise in thanks that the forest has humaned them, and they are sitting in this wonder, this magic, this forest. Wow, wow, wow. That space of consciousness is accessible first and foremost, but in that space of consciousness they start to analyse this unity, this forest. As soon as they start analysing, they separate from it, because now that connective wowness, this overwhelming unity with it, is severed, because by analysing it you create an analyzer within, and this creates a separation, a self inside of us. But this self is only generated in thought. It's only generated in thought. It's only based in our mind. With the self wiped out, when self is not present, the will of God will begin to manifest through the human organism. The human sits here analysing and generating an image of self as an analyzer within. As I'm passing through my work, I'm recognising it happening. The technology of my body wants to do it. I am the founder of this, I am that. And I get tangled in it for a little while, and then I check myself and I say, hold on, this feels contorted, it feels more tense than it needs to be. And I pull back and I pull to the space of asking, am I aware that I am founding this platform? Yes. Am I aware that I am doing this? Yes. Am I aware that I am somebody's father? Yes. Am I aware I'm someone's husband? Yes. These, therefore, are roles that I am aware of, but the question is, who is the one that is aware? And I keep asking this as I go through this process. And as I do, it brings great freedom, because we place immense pressure and responsibility on ourselves due to this self that we create. And that self is used against the kingdom of God. That self is used against who you are. The prison is based in thought because the fuel of the satanic, the fuel of Satan, is the light of God. But the condition is that light has to fall. Now, if the sun is burning, and the stars are burning and twinkling, and the rivers are flowing, how can that light fall? It can't. It's doing the process of the heart of God, the creation field being the heart of God. The only thing that can separate from that process is a sentient being with free will. And when a sentient being has free will, and they get rooted in separation, in the self, and away from the sacred, away from the presence, away from the voice, the will, the comfort of God, when we get rooted in there, we are the fallen light of God. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and is God. That Word is vibration and frequency. The more you look after the generous heart of God pouring through all that you are, the higher your vibration becomes. And in time, as you get to the heights of that vibration, you will know the direction God has for your life. And at times it will come through you without any dialect. And it's not even as if there's this separate being God who says to this separate being here, do this, and you say, okay, I'll do that. That process is absent. It feels that way. It's as if the will of the divine moves through the body and there is no self to challenge it. Self is not there. Some philosophies like Wu-Wei touch on this, but this is God. I'm telling you, this is God moving in us when this happens. And so God moves through the organism. And there is no persona, there's no self to challenge that. It feels that way sometimes. It's not a permanent state, but I have felt it. Now, when we don't build up, if you build up that energy, you must be in some form of stillness. Because in that stillness, you feel the vitality, the presence, the love, the contentment of God. But if you don't have that stillness, and if you are trapped by the way you've been trained as a child in this world, which is arguably rigged, to have these certain perceptions about what you are, which sever your supernatural capacity in a sense, and beyond there, don't teach you how to use your mind. Don't teach you how to use your thoughts, your awareness. Don't teach you where the core self is, this awareness that is aware of the roles you're being given. Instead, you're lost in the chaos of thought. If you are in that chaos of thought, likelihood is your attention will grab onto thought. And in that state of self, with all of this thought, you follow energetically into certain behaviors that drain your energy. And the reason they tempt you is because when you feel like you are a separate analyzer, a self, you have a void, because the wholeness of the truth of what you are is lost. You are amnesic from it. The wholeness of the connectivity and unity you have with all things and with God and with creation is absent when the analyzer, when the self is there. And that void makes you, as all humans want energy, need a higher vibration. And the satanic element of this, the prison, will offer you different things. It'll offer you things for quick elevation and then crash, such as pornography or drugs and so on. The exchange of energy that you go through there is ultimately selling the fallen light of God into the matrix of sin. But why is the prison built in thought? Well, the self is in itself a prison, but we don't recognize it because we think the self is who we are. So we look and say, how is the self imprisoned? And what if we then say, but the self in and of itself is the prison, metaphorically? The awareness that you are, that has come into this fragmented state, into this body, and is living life. It is loving, it is doing, it is building, it is walking, it is caring, it is laughing, it is crying, it is happy, it is angry. If you don't connect to the awareness, if you continuously believe that you are thoughts, if you believe yourself to be self, if you believe you are an identity based in thought alone, your prison is set. Your prison is undoubtedly set. Because the true power of a human resides in being in the awareness that's aware of those roles. The longer we stay there, we alter the way by which we live in the world, and this is where the power of God is born in mankind. When self is absent, God's will manifest. But when self is present, God's will can't manifest. It may come through in dribs, drabs and trickles, but you need some state of consciousness where self is gone. And when self is gone, the spirit can come in. This can happen in numerous ways. It can happen in fasting, in prayer. Recently, with one of our projects, somebody who was helping us, who is well off in life, went to do ayahuasca in Costa Rica. And when they finished, during the ceremony, they said that an angelic being had came to them and asked them to give some money to myself to finish building a stage of the new children's home for the special needs kids. Why did that communication come then? Because the self was absent. And when the self is absent, the cells of the body, the soul, has its connection. It has its opportunity to unite with the higher. It has its opportunity to commune with God. The will of God has the chance to move through the organism, to reveal itself. And so most of us are looking at the world for this prison. It's this industry, it's that government, it's that bank. But all of these structures depend upon self. This is why the education system's pounding into you. Self, role, career path, self, role, career path. Do what we say, follow our medicines, do this, and builds this perception that you can only function in this world by analysing as an intellectual being and altering it with your hands. Yes, you can function like that, but you can also function in another way. You can function without thought. And that's a concept that's totally aloof to most. But what if you could go through your life not needing to plan and analyse? What if God was doing the planning? What if God had already done the analysis and your job was to make sure that that will and purpose was revealed to the awareness that you are? And for that awareness to have that revealed to it, it must spend time in the space behind where I have been dragged this last week into self, into roles. It must come back through there and find the space. I am aware that I am this. I am aware that I am John. I am aware that I am doing YouTube videos. Therefore, these roles are not who I am. Somewhere beneath all of those roles that are manifesting on top of the awareness that is aware of them. And connecting to there is a connection to the beginning of the presence of God in your life. It's not as clear cut as that, because if you are still enslaved to certain behaviors that invite certain vibrations, you may connect to that emptiness and then run back to feeding lower vibrational behaviors. You may invite the wrong energy to your life. You may invite the wrong spirit. Spirit is your foundation. Soul is your connection to spirit. So it's spirit, soul, mind, body. Spirit, the Holy Spirit, is the foundation that animates your intelligence through your soul. But you can get the wrong spirit. So clean up your life. Clean that up. Make sure that you are not drawing in the wrong vibrations. But find that awareness behind self, beyond everything, because this is the building blocks to get you free from it. The habituation of who you are, your attachments to all of the elements of temptation that the enemy has gotten you into, your broken perceptions that were programmed into you wrongly, your view of your capacity and ability as a being, as a species, your ability to decode the bandwidths of consciousness are all limited by this self that has been programmed into you by the system. Become aware of the roles of self and then ask who is aware. Keep doing it, even as you're working as I am. Keep doing it, and you will set yourself free, and you will feel the lightness, you will feel the freedom, and you will recognize it, and you will understand how it was supposed to be. You are living for 80 to 100 years, most of us. You are an infant in this reality which is billions of years old. You, of your own accord, of your own mind, you can't learn enough knowledge to be wise in this world in that time. You can't learn enough to understand which way you should go. You can't analyze enough of the whole to be able to weigh up the best decision and direction to go. If you live as the self, you can't do it well. If, however, you live as the self and you offer to build structures for the record, for the enemy, which many do, so they build a structure in the world of something in the pornography industry, they'll be garnished with worldly riches, but it's an empty box. Those riches, they're an empty box in the end. There's no depth to it, and those people will recognize that. So you'll get this false sense of success from people who analyze and do it that way, but it's a fake success. Fast cars, fast women, it's a fake success. It's empty. It has no meaning in the eternal. It's a trick, it's a trap. But you cannot analyze yourself into making the best possible choice. But there is one who will do it for you, and that is God. And once you have seen the voice of God lead you to things that work out profoundly and beautifully well, you will understand the value of that voice. And you will recognize very quickly that that voice comes when self is not. When you are the awareness that is aware, you enter a stillness. And it's a unity with all things. And in that unity, all things speak with you. Not necessarily clear audibly, but they do speak. They conspire to assist with what is going on. We cannot possibly gather enough evaluation of this mystery that we live in to be able to know which way to go to make the world a better place even. But what we can do, given we are infants in this reality and we don't live for long, is we can take the walk of faith, and by grace we are offered the presence and the support of God, and by listening to that voice we follow in faith the walk of faith towards the will and the manifestations of God. But your job is to not get tangled in the roles, even the identities that are spiritual, even the identities that are religious, even the identities that are serving and building for God. Do not let the technology of your mind get tangled in those roles, because it'll diminish your energy. It'll separate you. And before you know it, you'll have generated an identity that's spiritual, and that identity will separate your energy psychologically from God, and the will not be present as a new self has taken the space of the will space. The prison is one of thought, and the prison is the self. Who you believe yourself to be, most likely, is what is imprisoning. And you love this thing, you love this identity, you love this persona. But I ask you only to sit back and ask clearly. Jesus said, unless you leave your wife, your husband, your brothers, your sisters, your children, you cannot follow me. It doesn't mean you don't love them. It means stop putting them as your identity before the allowance of the will to be the identity of the roles in life that you live. And you will live an awesome life when that will comes through you. I guarantee it. But just be aware. If I am aware that I am a father, that role, label, father, can't be who I am. I must be something deeper. What is that we are? Because that awareness is in you, it's in me. It was in me as a child, it will be in me when I'm an old man. And in that awareness, we can live a life where thought and analysis does not come first. For self does not come first. Self-thought analysis diminishes our power. It is our prison. Moving in the superconsciousness, in the presence of God, here and now. Not in a story, not in thought, not in ideas, but here now, a living opportunity for God's work to be done. Not as a persona agreeing to do God's work, the persona gone in those brief moments where this can happen, and God's work happens. You just somehow know to go that way, and your body's going, and you follow it with your awareness, and then something miraculous happens. That you can do in 80, 90 years. You can't understand the mystery of life. You can't understand the mystery of it, but you can trust God very quickly. And you can let that trust guide you in the same way it guides the birds to migrate, and it guides the seed to grow into a tree. And it guided you before you created this psychological sense of separation to grow from child to man. You did not do that. The you that you think you are had no say in that. And it's reconnecting to the one who had a say. Even as we fulfill these roles. It's so important we see it. The prison is one of thought. The self that we believe ourselves to be is often the prison that stops us from being the true who we are. God can come first without thought and analysis. But you have to find that space in consciousness. And really, while I'm grounded in the world, self-inquiry seems to be the fastest way for who I am to reach that. I guess that was all. Even when I try to make a grounded video, I know I sound anything but. I love you all. God bless, guys. Don't forget, the prison is thought. You can live without thought. And you can't end thought with thought. You can only end it with grace. And you can only walk with God in faith without analysis. If I told you that you can live without thought and analysis first, and you say, well, I don't understand it, there is a way. And that way is God. And if you find that space where self goes, you will understand. God bless. I just want to take a brief moment of your time to share with you about an exciting project we have going with the charity until the end of the year. The project's name is 2000 Strong. It has gotten off to a great start, and we thank those already involved. For those not involved, please stick around and hear why we are making this happen in the human story at this time. I'm going to give you an example of why our community is needed, why this solution is needed, and why 2000 Strong must manifest. This is Kelly. Kelly now lives safely in our community, in our village, in our family. However, when Kelly was found, her story was very different. Kelly had been starved to the point of near death. She had been burned and tortured by her father. This happened because in a society with very little education, In a society where superstition still surrounds things like disability, her father believed that her cerebral palsy was a demon and that he should fast this demon out of his daughter, that he should burn this demon out of his daughter. And of course, cerebral palsy is not a demon. It's a medical condition that needs to be cared for and nurtured, as we do at our children's village. Kelly now lives a good life. She's happy, she's full of joy, as it should have been all along. But Kelly is also one of the lucky ones, because there are a great many children out there who are still waiting to be found. 2000 Strong is a project to try and find 2,000 volunteers to fundraise a minimum of $100 each between now and New Year's Day. We say a minimum because if you go over, it may help. If we only get 1,000 volunteers or we fall short of 2,000, it's all welcome towards the goal. That money will be used to build stage 1 of a new village for special needs children in crisis, a village located a 10-hour drive away from our current location. When that village is done, it'll provide a whole solution for over 500 special needs children who are living in circumstances like this. At this time, I don't know of anyone else fighting for those children, and I can't do this without the resources I need. For whatever reason, you can hear my voice, and so I'm putting this out as a call to arms to help me to manifest this solution which is needed in our human story, as these children do not deserve to remain in the dark any longer. They need a safe, loving family home. 2000 Strong helps us to build stage 1 of that safe, loving family home and a permanent solution for the country of Tanzania forever. If you're interested, please visit www.sharetanzania.com/2000 Strong for more info, or you can reach out on any of our social media channels. Thank you for the love and support, guys. The work we do, the family we have, would not be possible without you.